Hello, children. It's Pastor Matt here for Children's Praise for our lesson today. And I'm really glad to be with you today. I know we've had a few weeks off as we've had some other different lessons after the VBS. So the one lesson I want to do with you today will be a lesson about a really important word that some of you might know. The word is temptation. Have you ever been tempted by something? Being tempted means that you have a desire for something, and it's really hard for you to say no. So one temptation you might know about is when you see a piece of candy. I can think of what it's like when you're in the checkout, maybe at the store, and they put all that candy really low so you all can see it, because maybe you're only so tall, maybe around here, and they put that candy right at eye level. So when you're in the checkout with your mom or dad, that candy is looking right at you, and you're looking at it, and you're really tempted to want to get maybe a Reese's or a Kit Kat or some type of chocolate. That's what a temptation is. It's a desire that's inside of you that makes you want to have something. So what we'll look at today is 3 times Jesus was tempted. But Jesus was tempted in a way like you and I are never tempted. He was tempted only externally. That is, he was only tempted with the things out there. But he never had this type of temptation inside of his heart that made him want to have what we call sin. Jesus never desired sin. He never was tempted by sin in the same way you and I are tempted by sin, because he was able to always resist. And so let's look at these stories. This is Jesus in the wilderness with Satan in Matthew 4. This is an important story for you to really understand and begin to remember, because this is very important for many years to come. It says this in Matthew 4. Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. And after fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was very hungry. And the devil, the tempter, came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become bread." So can you imagine how hungry you'd be after not eating for 40 days? Now, Jesus has all the power to be able to do anything he wants, but he only wants to do what his Father's will is. So even though he could make the stone into bread, he chooses not to, because he knows that it's not God's will for him to do that. That's what makes this all the more tempting. Then Satan said to him, the devil took him up on the holy city and set him on a pinnacle of the temple, and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down." And then he quotes a verse and says, "As it is written, he will command his angels concerning you." So Satan took Jesus on top of the pinnacle of the temple, very high place, many, many feet in the air, and he said, "If you are the Son of God," that is, if you're God's Messiah, God's anointed one, then just throw yourself off, because Psalm 91 says that God will protect you with his angels. And it's true. Jesus could command all of the angels to do anything he wanted because he was God. But he chose not to, because he wanted to do his Father's will. There was a mission he had to do in his life. And here's the last one. It says, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory, and said to him, "All this I will give you if you will fall down and worship me." And Jesus responded, "Begone, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only you shall serve." So how interesting is that one? Because Jesus is God. He's over everything. So he is over all the nations and kingdoms of the world. But as he was coming into this world as a man, he would have been tempted to try to have that kind of authority and power and take it on for himself. But he knew he couldn't do that. He had to be humble, and he had to suffer, and he had to go to the cross. Even though he could have stopped at any time, he chose not to. So those were 3 temptations that Jesus had. Different temptations than you and me. None of us are tempted with all the power and the kingdoms of the whole world. But that really is something Jesus could have had. Just like you could reach your hand out and take a piece of candy. So let's look at this as an image for temptation. Being tempted by sin is like a mousetrap. These are 3 different traps we just read about how Satan tried to trap Jesus. And if I'm going to put the pencil on this, right? And you're going to see, look at how sticky that is. Wow. the reason this works for a mousetrap is when a mouse comes and he's walking around, he'll step on it, and there's no way he's able to get his feet off, and he's stuck forever, right? That's how tricky sin can be. If you are tempted by sin, you can be stuck in it, right? Or look at this one. This one's dangerous. Hopefully I don't get my finger on here. And if I do, well, you'll just remember. So what would happen here, this is the same similar type of temptation where the mouse is walking around and there's a nice piece of cheese or peanut butter, and he wants to take it, and he's tempted, and he wants to take it, and oh my. And that's it. That's what a temptation is. Being stuck in a mousetrap. These were 3 different traps that Satan was trying to get Jesus trapped in. And you and I have the same thing. We go through this life and we're tempted by all sorts of things. You're tempted to be rude to your brother or sister, or to disrespect your mom. You're tempted to overeat or watch too much TV, or all the different things, the good things in this life that you like. You take too much of it and you're tempted, and it actually makes you bad. It breaks you. It's like getting stuck in a mousetrap. And so Jesus told us after this story, a few chapters later, he told us how to pray. And he said this: Father, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. So that's our prayer. I want that to be your prayer today. I want you to talk about that with your teachers. What does it mean when we say, Lord, keep me from being tempted, because if I get tempted, I might not be strong enough to resist. So that's what it means. Lead me not into temptation. Try to remember that part of the prayer today. And I'll see you again.